You think it's just a dry spell. You think it's just a temporary physical inconvenience. But let's be real for a sec. I'm about to expose exactly what is going on inside your head right now. Whether you chose this celibacy or, life chose it for you, your brain doesn't just casually ignore the fact that the tap has been turned off. Oh, it notices, but not in the way you might expect. What we're looking at today isn't just biology, it's a brutal psychological breakdown of emotional withdrawal. Plot twist. Your brain doesn't just miss the raw pleasure of physical intimacy, it violently misses the connection. You know that feeling when you're staring at your ceiling at 2 a.m., the glow of your phone illuminating your face, just wondering, why do I suddenly feel so emotionally empty? It's because the hardest part about not having sex isn't the lust. It's the sudden, quiet reality of feeling completely emotionally invisible. Your brain is reacting to a profound neurological shift. Let's start with section 1, the intimacy withdrawal, when the chemical tap shuts off.
Okay, let's dive into this. We need to reconstruct the cold, hard science of your withdrawal. First up, dopamine, your brain's ultimate reward chemical. Normally, it reinforces pleasure, motivation, and emotional bonding. But when sexual activity stops, your dopamine levels don't just vanish into thin air. Instead, the primary source of that massive chemical rush changes. Your brain suddenly starts acting like a smartphone stuck in low power mode, desperately searching for a Wi-Fi signal. You start feeling low-key numb, less energized, or honestly just chronically bored. Your dopamine system is panicking because its favorite button isn't being pushed anymore.
But here's the kicker. Let's talk about oxytocin. This is the bonding hormone. It gets released during intimacy, especially through touch, and it builds emotional closeness and trust. When that supply gets cut off, you're literally left emotionally stranded. A sudden drop in oxytocin gaslights your nervous system. It makes you feel incredibly isolated, and your brain subtly starts craving alternative forms of closeness just to survive the touch starvation. It's exactly why you might find yourself aggressively hugging a pillow or feeling irrationally lonely in a crowded room. Moving on to section 2, your brain without touch, the stress response. So, what happens to your physical body when this emotional withdrawal actually hits? Your brain has to manage the fallout. See, regular intimacy is an absolute elite biological hack for lowering cortisol, which is your main stress hormone. It regulates you. But without that biological stress relief outlet, that tension has literally nowhere to go. You start experiencing the dry spell stress spike. We are talking about unexplained irritability, random bursts of tension, and stress just living rent-free in your head. Wake up. Are you still watching? Because I need you to ask yourself, are you actually angry at your coworker, your friend, or the barista? Or is your nervous system just starved for physical touch? Now, to be fair, stress responses vary. Some people feel absolutely no difference. But for others, this lack of intimacy can heavily spike anxiety and lower your mood. Especially, and this is absolutely crucial, especially if that lack of sex is deeply tied to feelings of rejection, loneliness, or unmet emotional needs. Which brings us to section 3, the libido plot twist, the paradox of desire. Follow this timeline with me, because this is the absolute paradox of desire. In the short term, right after the tap shuts off, you are down bad. Your desire actually spikes. Why? Because of anticipation, novelty, and raw deprivation. It's that classic want what you can't have behavior. Your brain fixates on it, sometimes sending you endlessly doom scrolling through couples online, creating a brutal internal echo chamber of frustration. But look further down the timeline. Over the long term, if sex remains absent, you hit the flat line. The brain gradually dials down the sexual thoughts and urges. It doesn't eliminate them completely, but it severely lowers the volume. Why? Because your brain is a highly efficient, energy-conserving machine. If a neural pathway isn't being used, the brain shuts it down to prioritize other things. Let's be real for a sec. Hitting that flat line makes people feel entirely delusional. You sit there thinking your sex drive is broken forever. But nothing is wrong. You aren't broken. Your brain is just adapting to new patterns. It's simply shifting resources away from a biological drive that isn't currently serving your daily survival. Now let's look at section 4, the validation addiction, identity and self-perception. Is something wrong with me? Am I still wanted? This is the raw internal monologue of someone going through intimacy withdrawal. For so many people, sexual activity is heavily relied upon to reinforce feelings of desirability. It's what gives you that main character energy. When sex stops, especially when it stops unexpectedly, those core beliefs about your own attractiveness get violently shaken. The physical side is only half the story. The real damage happens to your ego in a cold, empty bedroom when the only company you have is the glow of your phone. Your mind has brutal defense mechanisms. Notice how quickly sudden dips in confidence happen. The brain desperately tries to make sense of the change. And because your brain hates a vacuum, it makes up a tragic story. Nobody wants me. But these thoughts aren't facts. They're just your brain panicking over a drop in validation. Without intentional self-compassion, emotional support, and finding an identity outside of your sexuality, your confidence will inevitably crash. You have an urgent need for alternative validation, and if you don't find it healthily, you'll start doom scrolling or seeking it in all the wrong toxic places.
Finally, Section 5, Starving for Connection, the Uncomfortable Truth.
I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Stopping sex does not permanently rewire your brain. It doesn't permanently damage you, and it absolutely doesn't mean you're missing out on some mandatory biological quota. You think you miss the physical pleasure. You think you miss the lust. But what your brain actually misses, what it is literally starving for, is intimacy. It misses validation. It misses connection. It misses the stress relief. If you're getting pleasure, connection, stress relief, and self-worth from other areas of your life, like exercise, creativity, or deep social connections, your brain adjusts just fine. But if those emotional needs aren't being met anywhere else, that is when the devastating imbalance shows up. It's not the lack of sex ruining your mood. It is the sheer weight of unmet human needs.
So I leave you with this final uncomfortable truth. Are you craving sex? Or is your brain just desperately searching for connection? There is no normal amount of sex you're supposed to be having. Your brain cares way less about frequency and infinitely more about fulfillment. So the next time you feel that deep, hollow ache of loneliness, ask yourself, what is my nervous system actually starving for?